Hey everybody, welcome back. So continuing with our little test and review of the Renogy Pro Series battery. We got our parts in, we were able to hook it up in our camper, and I decided to leave my original battery bank in place. If you recall, if you're a follower of the channel, we have 800 amp hours of the Renogy core batteries. That would be 4 of the 200 watt batteries, and never had any trouble with those. The only problem with those is they're not real fans of being cold like in the wintertime. So that's a battery bay that I've always kept with a small 200 watt heater to keep them from being way too cold. But Renogy asked us about doing a little review on their newest battery, and this one's a 240 amp hour battery, and it's got all the cool stuff in it. It's got the self-heating feature. It's got a really nice, I believe it's an aluminum case. It's robust, and they call it a solid state battery, and I'm told that that's it's high 90% solid state battery, but that's still better than what's out there, right? So I'm going to show you why I have this camper all torn apart. And this is the Coachmen 259 FKDS. It's got the king bed in the back. It's a pretty nice camper. We like it, and we really love it since we put the solar panels on the roof and we put the Renogy inverter in the batteries. And it's really handy. These are the drawers that go in up here. So I'm just going to show you exactly what I did. And okay, now this is a totally new to me kind of battery. Look, it's got different COM ports on it. Nice wire terminals. Yeah, let's unbag it. So let's check the dimensions on this real quick. We're looking at right about 15 and 7/8 inches. And right about 7 1/4. 15 and 7/8. It's about 9 and 5/8 inches high, but I don't know how the orientation that this is mounted yet. This may be the bottom, so I gotta get the book out and see how these brackets are mounted. So time to go read the manual. So as you guys are looking in here, these are the Core Series batteries. I think these are going on 3 years old. I haven't had any trouble whatsoever with these batteries, but I have charged them properly. I have kept them in a good environment, so they don't get too cold or anything. And we got some good equipment in here. Now, way down in there that you might be able to see, that's the Smart Shunt 300 amp. Talks to the one core. And a little bit behind it, you might see it tucked back in the corner. That's the older, I think it's called the PCL series 3 kW inverter charger. That thing is a tank. It is solid. I've never had an issue with none of this. I do want to point out a couple things. And our friend Vern, that's on the Renogy forums with us, he's also Vern and Jonty are really good about pointing out some stuff for people. It is when you're putting any type of batteries in, you want to make sure that you have the proper fusing in. You'll notice I'm using MRBF battery terminal fuses on each one of the positive terminals all the way down, and they work really good. Which ones do I have? I'm using the 200 amp fuse for each one of the batteries, and I'm using 4/0 cable. And some of you might say, well, what in the world is that? So I put a manual transfer switch in just to be able to test this new battery, and we may as well show it to you. I will be going up doing some winter camping soon, and I wanted to have both sets of batteries in here just in case the little one, the smaller battery, if I run out of capacity, because I do use a lot of electric heat in this RV. So let's take a peek at that battery here. So as you can see in the back here, that is the solid state Renogy battery. It's you can see how much smaller it is than the core battery. So this is 240 amp hours, and this one is 200. This one self-heats. This one does not. This one has a 250 amp BMS on it. where this one has a much less. I can run 200 amps out of this battery. And then it has a sweet spot for charging. Like, you know, they want you to only send a maximum of 100 amps to each one of these batteries, which is no problem. They're in parallel. But this guy over here, man, you can throw 250 amps to it and really charge it up quick. I'm going to show you a side view of this thing so you can see the real difference. You might be able to notice it here more. This battery is significantly smaller than the Core Series batteries. It weighs in about 52 pounds. So that is a big time plus. It's not terribly heavy. I do like the metal case that it comes with, and it does have little mounting lugs on the side so you can screw it down to a floor, cabinet, whatever, so it doesn't take off. So let's look at a few other things. So a couple things I wanted to show you that it's still a lithium iron phosphate chemistry. So the voltages and all those things are gonna look the same. The first 7 tests I did some load testing, where I run the battery down almost to the edge of fail. I got in the middle of 250 amp hours each time. So typical of Renogy batteries, these really deliver slightly better than the nameplate, which is to be expected. Renogy makes good batteries. As I mentioned early, wrong. I mentioned it was 250 amp maximum continuous current. It's 240, as you can see. I run an electric heat test in this rig, and I could run it continuously at 240, and that's everything in my RV turned on with space heaters plugged in. It's insane, but that little battery just keeps on chugging. It's pretty powerful. The nominal voltage is the same as a regular lithium iron phosphate battery. Some of the differences is if you have the capacity, you can throw 240 amps at this battery to charge it back up. So you could literally charge this thing in a half hour if you had enough capacity. Is there anything different about the battery? Not really. I wasn't able to test this. I simply don't have enough load to get 450 amps out of this thing. So maybe we'll figure that out in the summertime. Maybe we'll do some special thing and really run some cable. Maybe we run 2 RVs off this thing. I don't know. We'll try something. This is typical of lithium batteries. 80% DOD. That means 80% depleted. You know, the battery will have 20% remaining. When you charge that up, that's considered 1 cycle. So if you don't bottom it out, you're going to have a lot more cycles than 6,000. As you can see, the temperature range and the charge range is much wider than it is with a regular battery like the other batteries in this video. And that's because these have self-heat. Really good option to have because you don't have to be as watchful of what's going on with your battery, because when the charge comes back, the first thing it does is it turns on a 120 watt strip heater. I know this from watching the load on the battery. And before it would start charging, that internal battery temperature gets up close to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it starts charging. So that's a really good thing there. 56 pounds. I weighed mine on my scale at 55, so that's good. Storage, no concerns. There's no place I'm going to be that's going to take it in a good or bad place. But 4S4P, that's how many of these things you could connect up. I use parallel connection, but I suppose some people with the different types of inverters that are 48 volt, you could have 4 of them in series. I prefer to have them in parallel myself. Humidity, okay, it's a range that's good anywhere in the United States. I would imagine in Florida that could be challenging, but most of the lithium batteries we install, we put them in an enclosure in the RV, along with a smoke detector, because you never know. No surprise here. It talks about these other things here when you go to tighten up the terminal torque in here. Do the math. This gets you down to about 5.5 foot-pounds of torque when you're tightening them up. But you want to make sure those lugs are flat, clean. If you have to touch them with a file to make sure they're flat, I would recommend that. So there's nothing on here that's really out of the ordinary with the battery, with the exception of how it's built and having the heater in it. Renogy website does have a complete line on every product they make, so you get the user manual download to your phone, your tablet, your PC, whatever, and you'll have that little book. So I just threw my manual transfer switch over to battery 1, and that's the Pro battery on its own. And before I could reach over and turn the app on, right away I seen that battery's starting to take charge. And I'll show you both the app and on the one core. Now I do have to calibrate this battery to the shunt, so I need it to go to its full charge capacity, and then we'll be able to set the scale on it so it reads right. Cool thing about it is it shows you the 4 different cell blocks in here to tell you the value, if it's balanced or not. That has been very consistent. Of course, it tells you the temperature of the battery, and if it starts to heat, it will tell you. And I expect we'll see that in the morning. The forecast is 29 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to let this thing charge overnight and recalibrate our wireless shunt. I should show you this one. So I have the inverter off, and of course I have it plugged into the garage so we can properly do this test. There's no sun today, so we know we're charging, and the battery, as you can see, it's pretty full, right? So I do have a 50 amp converter, factory converter, that's built in behind the circuit breaker panel back there. So when that's on, when the battery's needed, it'll throw some power at it. Excuse me. So I had this shunt here, and this was one of the first ones I put in, and later on I added the wireless. So I'm going to change that, and let's see if we can do this pretty easy. So I know that it's 240 amp hours. It'll do a little better than that. So if I push and hold this button, and then push that again, then one more time, I'm going to back this down. I'm going to leave it at 250 so we can run an accurate load test on this shunt and just see how low we can go. I'm also going to drop down. Oops. Okay, go okay. Come back out to the main menu. Come down. Remember in the book it said 13.6. Well, I think it actually is 13.4 from the readings that I'm seeing in the real world. All right. And I am going to leave the zero value down so I don't get this crazy alarm going on, but that does help your scale, right? You need to know what the low is for your scale. And then I have this power off set really low because I want to see how far this thing will go. In other words, I want to bottom it out, okay? All right, so we're done with this part. Push and hold this for a second. I want to get out of here. Thought I would. There we go. So now our gas tank full is updated, 250 amp hours. Then I need to do the same thing to the one core, which is really just as easy. Want to look at the devices, right? So we can see there's one that says battery, and I want to come up here to the battery, and I want to tell it, my bad, that's the actual battery. Awesome. I want to go to the shunt right here, and I want to tell it how big a battery we got, and we're just going to set this at 250. And I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now it's seeing that, and then it's telling me that it doesn't like that. It's got that little red thing on there. What that means is it needs to charge all the way up, and it will calibrate. So that's something about the wireless shunt. They will calibrate themselves. I think you can see the little red thing right here, and if you look on the app, it'll tell you need to charge that battery all up so we can get to 100%, and it will scale out properly. So that's just going to have to take its time today. And let's see, what else can I show you guys? Battery. Okay, so it's got some specifics on the battery. And it includes the actual cell voltage. I like that part of it. All right. So yeah, we got to let it run, and then we're going to let it get really cold. We're going to have no heat on in here. And I want to be able to see when the sun comes up, does that battery self-heat? And I have a thermal imaging camera we'll put on there so we can maybe get an idea of the heaters in it. So that's about all we got right now. And I will update you guys. I'm on a camping trip next week. And we're unplugged, no generator with us. We're going to see how well this works. And one more thing. I can get from the battery, or I can get from the wireless shunt. Or you can do it from both. I'm going to leave it on both. The first time I've had a smart battery in here. Okay, it's updated. And it says that it'll be there in 20 minutes. All right. Gotta love that. So in the meantime, hang in there, and we're going to update you guys as we go along. In the next month or so, we should have several little short videos and updates on this. So time to put it a real world test. Put your money where your mouth is. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.